Okay, we are live. It's Friday the 13th. Um, Welcome again to another session of Nido Office Hours. Just so everybody knows, we're going to be changing the office hours time from Friday to Thursday. And I think that next Friday will be our very last office hours that's on a Friday. And then after that, we're going to switch it to a Thursday. And we're doing that because Matt Hillis of Bergamo Schools is actually going to be taking over the office hours for a few reasons. One, he's better than I am, and he knows Montessori, the Montessori method and model much better. And he's also, we're going to double up our office hours. And the first half of office hours will include an interview with somebody in the Montessori community, typically, thought leaders and authors, folks that have stuff to share. And so we're going to split it up into two segments. The first half is going to be about a half hour. It'll be an interview. We will open the interview up to Q&A. And then the second half will be just normal, good old fashioned office hours. And so we'll, still be available for any of your questions. But we're hoping this provides a lot more value to the community. And we've already got our first three interviewees lined up, and all three of them are awesome. I think you'll be really excited when you see the list. So I'm not going to publicize them now just yet. We're waiting on their bios and some other information. But as soon as I have that, I'll make sure to share it with everybody, and you'll start to see who's coming out. On that note, if you want to be included, if you want to be involved, please feel free to send us a message. You can go to the live chat on the website, or send us an email at hello@nidomarketing.com, and just let us know that you or somebody that you're associated with would be a good subject matter expert for one of the interviews. We're looking for, it doesn't have to be Montessori marketing specifically. We're just looking to kind of help expand the Montessori mission. So, if you have a lot of experience running a school, if you have some insight into how to manage a tour, whatever your particular thought leadership is, we want to hear about it, and we want to really kind of help promote the community and bring Montessorians together and all of that good stuff. So, if you have any questions for me today, feel free to drop them in the chat. If you're on Easy Webinar, there's a chat field on your right-hand side. If you're on Facebook Live, you can just comment on the video. Otherwise, I'm going to go through my standard itinerary, which is really just a weekly recap of what's going on. You'll notice if you hit the blog, one of the things that we pushed out recently is we're starting to promote Ontraport. Now, I don't want to scare anybody, because I know that it can already be overwhelming trying to figure out what tools to use and when to use them, etc. The cool thing about Ontraport is we're actually, for our members, we're going to do all the work for you. But we want to introduce you to Ontraport, just so we can kind of start to get the story started and the narrative started. It's worth reading this blog if you haven't. This just talks about why we think that Ontraport is better suited for the Montessori model. We tested this with Bergamo Schools first. As a matter of fact, we're building out his entire automated sequence inside of Ontraport. Ontraport is a one-size-fits-all marketing tool. And what's cool about it is it really is all-inclusive. And so everything that you need from a marketing perspective, it's your CRM, your email tool, so it does all of your outbound emails. It also does marketing automation, which means that based off of what a user does, it'll trigger marketing. It's handles SMS inquiries. Just honestly everything you can possibly think of. And the best part about it is it's actually relatively inexpensive, considering everything it does. It starts at $80 a month, and I don't think Montessori schools are going to need to ascend any further than that, except for maybe some additional contacts. But for $80 a month, you get landing page builders, a lot of really kind of cool reporting that I don't think a lot of Montessori schools are using. So this isn't anything you have to use. It's not a prerequisite at all. But if you are interested, one of the questions we get often is, what CRM should we use? And that's a question that we wanted to have an answer to, but it's a question that we wanted to have an answer to that we had vetted ourselves. So, there are some pretty good CRMs out there, but nothing that we thought was perfect. I think that Ontraport is, it's very basic, which is good. It means it's easier to handle. But Ontraport seemed to kind of check all the boxes in terms of the tools that we were looking for. You'll also, I wanted to pull this up. This is the Ontraport campaign builder. This is what's really exciting about Ontraport for me, is we can automate so many things inside of Ontraport that right now I believe you're probably doing by hand. So, if somebody requests a certain piece of information, you can respond in a very specific way, unless they happen to be a part of a certain list, in which case you respond in a different way, so on and so forth. Again, you don't have to build any of this. None of this is going to be on your plate. We're building all of this for you. We're actually building Montessori specific Ontraport automation that you will be able to download and install in your Ontraport app um, as a Nido marketing member. So this will be available to you. Um, and we're going to kind of try to build quite a bit here. We'll have some landing pages that you can install and use that are Montessori specific. And landing pages are great if you're, if you're trying to promote events, if you're driving paid traffic. One of the errors that we make in driving paid traffic is just driving it directly to our homepage. You want to use a really targeted landing page, and we're going to create some custom landing pages inside of Ontraport so you can see what they look like. So nothing actionable here. I'd recommend reading the blog because it introduces Ontraport and why we think it's important. And then just stay tuned, because as we have new Ontraport utilities to present to you, you'll be able to vet them and decide whether or not this is worth the expense for you and your school. We are Ontraport certified partners, and so we're able to support your Ontraport implementation. And again, I think it's going to bring a lot of value, especially if you're dealing with processes that you think could be automated. And you'd be surprised at how many things can be automated. And a few examples, some of the things we're doing for Matt at Bergamo, for instance, is when somebody schedules a tour, they receive an automated follow-up email that thanks them for scheduling the tour, and that comes from Calendly. But the email is very sparse. So what we're going to do in Ontraport is we're actually going to send them a video that says, hey, here's what you can expect. And by the way, here's where to park, and here's what the front of the school looks like. And here are the things that we're going to go through. And if they watch the video, then we can follow up with the subsequent email. If they don't watch the video, then we follow up with the same email saying, hey, just in case you missed it, these are some of the things that you can expect. And here's what we'd like you to prepare for our tour. So you can do a lot of those if this, then that kind of sequences. If somebody requests tuition information and they're interested in your infant program, we send them different info than if they request it and they're interested in your elementary program, and we drop them into a different nurture. So it's a logic-based marketing automation tool, which again, I know sounds a little daunting, but we're going to be taking care of all the heavy lifting. So really excited about that. Let me know if you have any questions or if you're interested in demoing it. We're happy to help arrange that too. One of the things that I wanted to bring up that we just pushed out that I'm so excited about is our WordPress course. So this is something I've promised everybody for, I think, about 2 months now was the first time I started referencing it. And it took us about that long to build it just because it's so robust. But if you're a second plane member or higher, just go to the courses section in the menu option, and you'll notice the very last course that we just added was WordPress. The vast majority of you have WordPress sites. Every now and then I'll run across a Wix or a Squarespace site, but for the most part, most Montessorians are working off of WordPress, which is what we want to see. And if you're on WordPress and you access the WordPress course, we've got all of the basics covered. So how to add and edit your blog posts. And this isn't just kind of the generic information, general generic information, excuse me. This is also really specific things like how to customize the URL so it's SEO friendly, formatting using page builder, etc. We do the same thing for pages, and posts and pages are different in terms of the way that they function. Posts are really meant to be kind of like news feed type content distribution. So blog posts come from posts, and then pages can be permanent parts of your menu structure. They tend to be formatted in kind of a different way, and usually have far more design elements inside of a page. We show you how to modify your menus. Now, these 3 tutorials should be applicable to just about any WordPress instance. They were built using our template site. And so if you haven't seen it, Nido built a templated Montessori site that's available to you as a member if you're third or fourth plane member. And the back end of this site is what we used for this course. Now, this site is built on a very specific theme from Elegant Themes. And so if you're not using that theme, it might look just a little bit different to you. But for the most part, the walkthrough and the structure is about the same. And Barbara's waving. Hi, Barbara. Thanks for joining us for office hours. Let me know if you have any questions. Just drop them right in the chat. Barbara, right now we're going over the WordPress tutorial that we built. So the tutorial is going to be specific to the theme that we have, but it should apply to just about anything that you have on WordPress. The module 1 is sort of the basics. Module 2 is where we dive a lot deeper. The Yoast SEO plugin is something that I want to talk about specifically. If you do not have Yoast installed on your site, I strongly recommend doing this. If you're worried about search engine optimization, which really just means if you're worried about whether or not you rank on the Google machine, Yoast is one of the best places to start. It's a free WordPress plugin. You can do a lot of damage with the free version, so you don't have to pay for the paid version. You don't have to upgrade. You can, and you probably should if you start investing money in SEO. But for the short version, just install the free plugin. Um, and what's cool about the free plugin is it kind of optimizes your site for you. So when you're looking at Yoast, it shows you um, a lot of the changes that you need to make, some of the things that you may be doing wrong, some of the errors that could exist on your page. And it does so in a really easy kind of step-by-step, check the boxes way. And we walk through that entire system, how to install and how to manage Yoast um, here in this module. So if you're not using Yoast, I'd recommend doing so. It's not exceptionally difficult. And what's cool about it is Yoast is installed on every single page. So anytime you update a page on your WordPress site, a blog post or a regular page, then Yoast will go through and kind of audit that page, and it gives you this kind of report card. And it's cool because it's color coded. So anything in green means it's good to go. Anything in yellow probably should be addressed, and anything in red could be a catastrophic error. So I'd recommend installing Yoast if you don't have it already. Once again, it's free. I only think you need the free version. If you're paying for the paid version, that probably means you have somebody doing SEO for you, and really, then they should be paying for it because that's what you're paying them to do. Managing users is really important. One of the things that I've seen with a lot of our Montessori members is everybody's using the same login for the website. This is incorrect, and it's incorrect for a number of reasons, security being the first and foremost. If everybody's using the same login, it's far more likely that that login gets compromised. And when the login gets compromised, it's far more likely that whoever ends up with that login can do pretty serious damage. So what I'd recommend doing is creating a separate user for everybody that needs access to your site. This includes us. If you give Nido Marketing access to your site, you'll notice the instructions that we send you. They're not to share a username and password with us. They're to create a new member for us. You also want to be able to do this because if somebody makes a mistake, if somebody makes a change or updates content or does something that you want to revert, if you're using the same login, it's hard to figure out who did what and when they did it. If everybody's using different logins, then what's cool is we can isolate and identify who made the change, and you're far more likely to be able to go in and fix it. And we can go in and say, oh, it was Cosm that did this. So now let's just look at the things that were initiated by the user that Cosm uses. And it kind of helps with a fair bit of risk mitigation. Another kind of really cool thing is you can create different user rights. So some of your website users probably only need to update content. And if that's the case, then you can create a user that only has editing privileges. You don't want to give administrative access to everybody. Even if you trust them, there might be just kind of a layer of complexity to the administrator user that folks might necessarily not want or need. And so you can kind of protect them from themselves in a way by limiting their access. So I'd recommend creating a user for everybody that ever needs access to the site. What's cool about this too is you can now restrict access to your site if ever need be. So if there's somebody who needs temporary access, you can create a user for them, wait until they're done doing whatever it is they need to do, and then you can remove that user. If you ever, God forbid, if you ever lose an employee or if a vendor kind of turns sour on you, it's much easier to cut off their access than it is to go try to change every password you've ever had. So this is a really important best practice. I'd recommend managing users. And then these last three sections are really built around the templated site that we provide our members. These are all plugins that are specific to our site. So they might not be quite applicable to you unless you're using our site. You don't have to use our site at all. It's absolutely free to you if you're a third or fourth plan member. But if you're happy with your site, I'd actually rather you stick with what you got because I think that's easier for everybody. But I just wanted to make mention that if you are using our site, and I know a handful of you are, then this will show you how to manage and edit the calendar that we have on the site. This will show you how to manage the private parent section and also update the testimonials. On that note, if you aren't working to actively generate testimonials, one of the things I wanted to talk about today was creating a campaign to do that. And it doesn't need to be automated. It doesn't need to be fancy. One of the things I think you can do is find the catalytic moment in any student's tenure when you feel it would be appropriate to ask for a parent's testimonial. Oftentimes, this happens, I think, when they transition from one program to the next, because usually parents are really, especially if they've, decided to move forward onto the next program, they're probably really happy with you. And so I think one of the things that you can do is just make it, you can add it to your forms. If you have modified forms or if you have them update, like let's say you're having them update emergency contact form. Just print out a second page that says, "Hey, would you mind telling us what you think of your school?" And don't just say, "Can you please provide us with a testimonial?" Because that's too generic. What you want to do is you want to lead them. And one of the ways to lead them, I think, is ask for constructive criticism in the very beginning. Because usually what ends up happening, especially if you know somebody's happy with you, the constructive criticism loops around to them explaining what it is they like and dislike, but in really positive ways. And so, make the request specific to your school. Ask them for specific feedback on, your guides, your curriculum, things like your location and hours. Those are all things that you want to know, and then close it out with, if there's information that you would share with other parents, would you mind listening here, and ask them if you can use it publicly. But make it a part of your system, because if you don't make asking for a testimonial a part of your system, you're never going to ask for the testimonial. And this is something that we've run into, as well, both with Nido Marketing and with Bergamo Schools. You don't want this to be just when you're thinking about it. You want it to be at very specific points, and you also want to make sure that those points are typically positive. And so I really like asking for testimonials when students are transitioning from one program to the next, because you usually catch parents when they're in a very positive frame of mind. Another thing that you can do, I think, is, when you're intaking new students, one of the questions you can ask in your admissions form is, "Why did you choose our school? What about our school set us apart from everybody else?" And then after they fill that out at the very bottom, you can say, "Would you mind if we share your responses?" And you can share them anonymously, or you can, maybe do like a first name, last initial sort of thing. But those are really, really solid ways to get parent testimonials that you can use on your site and in your marketing collateral. The other thing that you can do is, once somebody has given you a positive testimonial, my recommendation is to follow up with them and say, "Hey, your testimonial was so important to me, and you made such a great impact. Would you mind sharing something similar on Google or on Yelp or on Facebook, wherever you're aggregating your testimonials?" My strong opinion is that you want to aggregate your testimonials on your Google local page, and I'll show you what that looks like. Um, this is your Google local page. So when somebody searches for your school, the page that comes up here on the right-hand side, this is the Google local listing. You'll notice we don't have any testimonials ourselves, which just makes me a hypocrite. But that also has a lot to do with our recent launch. I'll show you my agency. Here we go. Lots of reviews. You want them to share their reviews here, because this impacts your online ranking. So if you want to increase your organic ranking, one of the best things you can do is start aggregating social proof. And in my opinion, Google is the best place to aggregate social proof, not just because they're sort of, they have the keys to the kingdom in a way from an online visibility standpoint, but also because I think they do the best job making sure this ecosystem stays very organic. Facebook reviews are very difficult to see on the Facebook page. You can see the star rating, but it's tough to find the reviews. B, they're easy to manipulate, and so people tend not to trust them. As a matter of fact, you can turn your Facebook reviews on your Facebook page off entirely. So that's number one. Yelp, and we're talking to Yelp right now about being a part of their partner program. So I'm voicing some of these concerns with them, just FYI. But Yelp has a very bad reputation, and I think that they've earned it, to be frank. As a matter of fact, I've talked to a few of you about Yelp. Yelp has an article on their page responding to extortion claims. I don't believe that you earn this reputation without some level of culpability. And I don't think a company this big would have to respond um, in this way without some truth kind of lying underneath. What typically happens with Yelp, and this is anecdotal. I don't have a ton of data on this, but I can tell you I've been doing this for 12 years. And I've seen this with some of our clients. When you're paying for Yelp, everything's hunky dory. As a matter of fact, when you're paying for Yelp, interestingly, some of your bad reviews go away, which is a really slippery slope. The problem with that, however, is when you stop paying for Yelp. And then all of a sudden you'll notice that good reviews fall off, bad reviews resurface, and you start getting more bad reviews because Yelp has algorithmic approaches to presenting your listing in front of users that can either provide a positive or a negative experience. They know who their gripey people are and who their positive people are. If you're using Yelp already, I think that's perfectly fine. I would tell you, actually, honestly, to just keep doing what you've been doing, because the big changes we've seen with Yelp is when you make a massive shift. If you're not using Yelp, I'd probably discourage you from investing too much in the ecosystem. If somebody gives you a review on Yelp, that's great. Take it. That's awesome. But I don't know that I would be driving a bunch of people. I think your best bet is to drive a bunch of people to your Google local listing and start aggregating reviews that way. Another really cool thing about your Google local listing is it also aggregates reviews from around the web. So if you do get reviews elsewhere, it's going to pull in those reviews. You'll notice we have 7 votes on Facebook, all 5 out of 5, and Google lets people know that. If you haven't claimed your Google local listing yet, we actually have a course on doing so, and I will show you where. Okie dokie. Google My Business. This might be one of the most important courses we have. I think this is one of the most important things you can do for your local listing, or excuse me, from your local visibility. If you don't have your Google My Business profile claimed, chances are one already exists for your school because Google's really good at aggregating um, online information. So you might have a Google My Business listing and not even know it. And if that's the case, then you have to go through this really weird redemption process where they send you a postcard with a code on it so you can prove that you actually have access to the mail. But if you don't have this yet, I would make this action item number 1. This will probably take you about 90 minutes. So set aside an hour to an hour and a half, and this will help you um, create the profile, update the information, optimize, and then we've got a little thing here on how to generate reviews. This is really cool. There's actually a review link that you can create that sends people instantly to, let's see if I can do it, this page. So instead of them having to go find where to write a review, oh, actually, I think that it sends them to this. So when they follow that link, they instantly jump on and see a rate and review prompt and request. So absolutely worth doing if you haven't been doing it yet. Really strongly recommend, again, using Google. But don't worry about aggregating testimonials outside of a specific ecosystem. It's okay if you just get them and add them to your website. That's perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, it's sometimes it's kind of better because you get to choose where they go. And you also get to choose, you can kind of cherry pick, little sections and sentences from it. So nothing wrong with that at all. Any questions about anything I've talked about so far? Ontraport, Yelp, Google reviews, websites, WordPress, etc. I'm just going to keep on keeping on until somebody chimes in. Again, if you do have any questions for those that just joined, feel free to comment on the Facebook video, or you can drop it into chat on Easy Webinar. Susanna just gave me a thumbs up. You're kind of my favorite right now, Susanna. Thank you. No offense to anybody else, but she's just talking to me more than everybody else is, so I don't feel like I'm quite the island that sometimes this feels like. One of the things that I want to push every single week is the forum. I would really love it if everybody started using the forum because I think that there's a lot to benefit from each other. So right now we're having a lot of conversations that are, between Nido and schools, which is great. But what I want to start doing is cultivating conversations between schools. So many of you have so much to share, and I learn so much every single time I'm on the phone with somebody. I really think that we could build, kind of a synergistic ecosystem here where we're all benefiting from each other. And so if you do have questions, they don't have to be marketing related. That's the really important thing about Nido marketing is it's about Montessori. It's not about, PPC or email marketing. It's about Montessori. We want to expand the Montessori message. We want to explode it. We want to double the amount of kids that are going to Montessori schools. We want to double the size of your school if you want that. And in order to do that, we need to talk about so much more than marketing. So if you have questions, somebody posted a question earlier about, I think it was CRM or school management systems, whatever it is. We have over 300 members now. And I promise you, other people, at a minimum, even if they don't have the same answer, if they don't have an answer to your question, I promise you they have the same question. And that, in my mind, is a really good place to start, is for us to figure out, oh, wow, other people are struggling with this too. Because then we have a bunch of really smart folks who can kind of go to school on it, and we can hash it out together. So if you have anything about any questions, comments, concerns, anything, please feel free to go to the forum. You don't have to. I'm not trying to shame anybody to use the forum, but I really do want to make this kind of an important part of our community. And Camille just said, I commented on a recent blog post about slider header images. No reply. Should I comment in the forum instead? Well, shame on me, because I'm supposed to be the dude doing that. I'm so sorry, Camille. I don't know why I missed that one. Let's take a look here. Oh, well, you did. No, what you did was perfect. What you did was perfect, and I just need to do my job, is the short version of a long story. I'm going to go figure out why I didn't receive this notification. I wonder if that went to Steven on accident. Thank you for doing that, by the way. Anytime you have questions or comments, the blog is a great place to put it. You could also put it in the forum as well. I think when you put it in the forum, other people that are subscribed to the forum and chose to receive those email notifications, they'll see it. And so the forum might be a better place if you do have a question that you want other people to chime in on. The forum is a great place to start. But if it's ultra specific to the blog is an awesome place too. And I'm going to comment. I'm going to respond to this right now. So Camille said in the comment to the blog, we wrote a blog on why sliding header images are costing you enrollments. And this is true, incidentally, almost across the board. There's something called banner blindness. And when you have sliding header images on your website, people are skipping them and it's hurting your ability to engage. And so the question here is interesting. I'm wondering if the same principles apply to video. We have a short looping video on our homepage with short message and a CTA button overlaid on the video. Would a single image with the message and CTA be more effective? I don't know the answer to that offhand. Camille, what's your web address, please? Will you remind me? I'd like to look at the website. I can go track it down to hollismontessori.org. I was about to go to .com. Good thing. Okie dokie. You know what's interesting about this? Gosh, this is such a great question. This is technically a hero banner. So what you've done here is you have a very consistent message. Our mission is to prepare children for life, which I love, by the way. Bergamo has something similar. They say education for life. I think that's so compelling, and it lets people know the minute they land on your site what you're about. And then you have a very direct call to action. Now, if I were to be constructively critical, and I hope you don't mind me doing that on this call, I would like your call to action right now is what we call a transitional call to action. And a transitional call to action is a little less specific. It's not quite at the bottom of the funnel. I prefer direct calls to action. So a direct call to action would be something like schedule a tour, request tuition, etc. Request information is transitional. Now, there's nothing wrong with this, and it's all based on your paradigm. You might say, hey, we want to stay transitional because we want to be very soft touch, and I would respect that and totally understand. As a marketer, if you're good with a hammer, you think everything's a nail. So as a marketer, I like being a little more direct because it has proven to catalyze action more. But this, from a banner perspective, is perfect. This is technically a hero banner because even though the imagery in the background is changing, you have a consistent message and a consistent call to action. And this call to action, by the way, isn't bad at all. I think it's great. I was just commenting on how a direct call to action might produce more immediate tours, but at the same time, you might turn people off too. So I think it's all based off of your level of comfort. And I love your website, by the way. Your use of imagery is just awesome. Really, really impressive. There's a schedule of tour CTA. That's great. Custom imagery, incidentally, for Montessori schools is so important because that's where parents go. You'll notice that you have an image gallery on your page on your site. That's one of the highest traffic pages for Montessori schools. And Camille just said, thanks. We're lucky to have a parent who's a great photographer. That's such a godsend. Yes, it's hard. It's tough. I'd say about half of our schools have really good imagery, and half struggle with that. I will say that even if you don't have professional photography, don't hesitate to play the iPhone game. If you have an iPhone that's less than 2 years old, you have an amazing camera on that thing. And I would run around, get yourself one of those image stabilizers from Amazon, and I'd run around shooting video and taking pictures of that. I'd much rather have pictures that an amateur takes from their iPhone than stock photography. Any day of the week and twice on Sunday. And Camille said that video was shot with an iPhone. Check you out. Wow, you're a rock star. And that's great. Look at that video. I mean, look how big it is too. This is a really big screen I have it on. The resolution is awesome. And I love whoever did this obviously knew what they're doing. I love the close-ups on the activity. I think that's great. One thing, and this comes, I'm trying to remember the photographer's name. He's a professional marketer too, and he talks about exactly what you've done here. There's the ability for somebody to imagine themselves in this context because you're showing the activity, you're showing hands, but we're avoiding faces directly. Now, that's not to say that we always have to do that. Just that people generally can start to insert themselves into a situation when you do it. You'll notice that a lot of commercials do that too. Like laundry detergent commercials are really good at showing hands and kind of avoiding faces because they want you to see yourself using the product. And so we want to kind of do something similar here where, mom and dad can kind of see, oh, that could be my kid writing that. So this is brilliant. This is very well done. Really impressed. Thank you for sharing that, by the way, Camille. And let me just check that's it for my itinerary. Oh, goodness. One thing I wanted to mention. If you're a second plane member or above, we have a surprise for you. We are giving all of our second, third, and fourth plane members free opt-in Monster plugins. And so this little site in that you see right here, we will add this to your website for free, add and host, and you can add a tuition request. So if you aren't already asking people to download your tuition, the reason this is so important is this is one of the single strongest lead generation tools that we have. A few of our new members have gotten, I think one has gotten 50 new leads just from tuition requests, and she's only been running for, I think, less than a month, and 1 in 10 of those has turned into a tour, which is awesome. So one of the things that you can do, we actually have a form that I can share, and I'll be posting to the forum soon. But you fill out the form and place a request, and we will create the entire opt-in sequence for you. So when you're on your website, as long as you're on a WordPress website, you see the little call to action here. The parent opens it up. They would enter their name, their phone number, their email address. And when they sign up, we send them the tuition directly from your MailChimp. And then they also get dropped into MailChimp and dropped into an automated autoresponder. And if you're a second plan member or up, this is absolutely free to you. There's no additional cost whatsoever. And I'll be sharing that form. I'm going to try to get that up today. Let me make a note to do that. Cool. And Susanna says, we love that. It's been so good to have that as a gate. Yeah, you guys really, you killed it. I think your ability to kind of take our recommendations and run with it was awesome, because it just showed so much success. So yeah, that's coming. If I don't get it out today, I've got to check with Oren and see where we are with that form. Then I'll definitely get it out by Monday. And that's all I have for everybody. We still have time. Office hours typically last about an hour, but I schedule a whole, I reserve a whole second half hour just to make sure that, if you have any questions or anything, I'm available. So any questions, please drop them into chat. Here we go from Camille. We gated our tuition info about a month ago and have received about 90 leads. Wow. But only about 3 have contacted us and none have scheduled a tour. Any ideas? Too big of a discussion here? No, definitely not too big of a discussion. This is my favorite discussion. So I'm going to repeat. Camille said, we gated our tuition info about a month ago and received about 90 leads, but only 3 have contacted us and none have scheduled a tour. Any ideas? So this is one of the conversations I had with another one of our members. It has a lot to do with your bandwidth in order to fill the leads, and also with how proactive you want to be. And I'm going to use the word proactive strategically because I don't want to use the word pushy. My opinion as a marketer, again, is that you are well within your rights to follow up with tuition requests with those leads with a phone call. And what I'd like to see you doing is follow up with a phone call and say, hey, it's Camille over at Hollis. I noticed you downloaded our tuition request. I just wanted to see if you had any questions. I know Montessori can be, there's a lot to know and understand. So I wanted to field any questions you may have, and leave it very, very, very soft touch. Don't ask them to schedule a tour. Don't try to push them in any direction. Just hop on the phone and be a thought leader. If you don't get a hold of them, follow them up with a personalized email, even though they're probably already in your drip system. And I think what that will do is it will help you move the conversation along further and faster. These people have qualified themselves as being interested, but that doesn't mean that they're not still busy. And let's take a look. Where's your tuition request? Can you tell me? Under admissions. Okay. I should have just guessed that. I'm a little embarrassed now. Yeah, look at these images. That is just great. Yes, this is awesome. So they provide their name, their email. So one thing I might encourage you to do is add a phone number. You don't have to. Matt doesn't have one on Bergamo. Bergamo Schools does not follow up on their tuitions requests because they get too many. They get hundreds, and he has 4 locations and does a big marketing blitz, and so he just doesn't have the bandwidth for it. But if you have the bandwidth for it, then I'd recommend following with a phone call and just trying to see if you can establish yourself as a thought leader. The Montessori parent is an educated consumer. These are smart folks, and you know that. And I promise you, smart people have questions. And so if you can just get them on the phone at the right time, at a minimum, you're going to learn more about some of their concerns. You might learn more about why you might not be the right fit, which is really important. And then, ideally, you can get them into the school. Hey, why don't you come down, schedule an observation, schedule a tour. Susanna says, we have a similar situation, lots of leads. We then have them getting the automated series of emails. I think we've had 3 tours. The great part of that I see so far is that none have unsubscribed from the email list. That's awesome. So they're still there lurking. If we reel one in over time that wants Montessori education, we'll call it a win. Yes. So if somebody's in your automated email nurture, that I think is an absolute must. And for anybody listening, if you are generating leads, and a lead is anybody who gives you their contact information, and it doesn't have to be digitally. If you have an open house and people come and they fill out a form and they give you their contact info, drop them into your nurture, and your nurture just keeps you top of mind. And I know I've kind of beat this drum, but you have this available to you for free. I think all of our members do. So here's the Montessori email nurture template. Don't use this verbatim, customize it to your school. But what's cool about it is it just introduces you, lets them know about your mission, vision, values, goals, your history, why you're the right potential fit. And it also gives you the opportunity to send them additional content along the way. So your nurture could be, 365 emails long. You could send one email a day. I don't recommend it. But you just always want them to be top of mind. My ideal scenario is this. Somebody becomes a lead. You instantly try to follow up and create a one-on-one connection. So if somebody requests tuition or has a question or gosh, even comments on some of your content, I'd follow up and say, hey, do you have any questions about, the Montessori model? Or tell me about your kids. How old are they? Where are they coming from? If they're coming from another school, if they're brand new, what issues might you have? But try to create that one-on-one connection first, build that relationship. If you can't, or if they're not ready, that's perfectly fine. Then you can rely on the nurture, and then they get dropped into the nurture to kind of acclimate them to who you are. And then after the nurture expires, which it needs to go at least 7 emails, and you'll notice that our template has 7 emails. That's because 80% of all conversions happen between the 5th and the 7th email. That's an Infusionsoft statistic. And so when you create this nurture template, you build the automated nurture sequence into MailChimp, and then you put them through your nurture for 7 emails. After 7 emails, then you put them in your general broadcast list. And my ideal scenario for you would be you're sending them an email once a week. And we create, for our 3rd and 4th plane members, we create regular email blasts. And so you have all the content necessary to send an email blast once a week. They're very soft touch. They give you the ability to reference a piece of content that was created, reference any news or upcoming events. But what this does is it helps establish you as a thought leader. So they're like, wow, these people really know their stuff. You're sending information that hopefully resonates with them. I love this, by the way. This is referencing one of the articles, Why Your Child Loves to Sweep. And then this keeps you top of mind. So this is being sent to your parents and your prospects. And to Susanna's point, these are for our lurkers. And because the Montessori parent is an educated parent, some of these folks are looking into potential solutions 18 months in advance. And I know you know that better than I do. And what you need to do is stay in front of them. And so this is a long-term gain. But that doesn't mean that you can't go for a few short-term wins. So again, going back to kind of the conversation we were having earlier, I do think that tuition requests can be followed up with a phone call. Camille, I would recommend adding the phone number as a field to your form if you want to, and then following up with a phone call and making it really soft touch. Hey, just wanted to see if you had any questions. Would love your opinion. What made you download tuition? Why were you interested, etc. Try to start that conversation. Another thing that I'd strongly recommend, and this is something that we've dealt with a few other schools, is quote your tuition by the week, especially if it's over the phone. Here's why. The big box daycares, call a La Petite just for fun, or a KinderCare, and see how they quote you. All of them quote by the week, and there's psychological anchoring going on here. When you say the words $8,000 or any number of thousands of dollars, you're immediately triggering pain in people's mind, because those are thousands of dollars that they are departing with. And these guys are brilliant at saying something like, oh yeah, it's $175 a week. Well, $175 sounds really reasonable. So we need to play those same games too. So I'd recommend quoting tuition by the week, or at least being prepared to do that. And then when you're calling them up, have a script, have kind of a template for how you want the conversation to go, because nothing's worse than calling a potential prospect and then, crickets on both ends of the phone. So what that might mean is, if you can learn the age of their child, you might want to help kind of contextualize the conversation that way. One of the things that I think is really important is making sure that children are mission appropriate before we get too far down the train of kind of bait and switching our parents. And so, for instance, if you have somebody who's looking for a child that might be interested in their kindergarten year, and you've had some issues in the past, I'd actually bring those up. As a matter of fact, we wrote a blog for our members called "The Importance of the Kindergarten Year." But I would bring up some of the potential issues. It's called negative selling, and I don't like that term because I think it makes it more manipulative than it is. Really, what you're doing is being honest. Hey, just so you know, it might not be a right fit for every for every student for these reasons. And let me tell you some of the reasons that might be. And then after you explain that, you can say, does that apply to your child? And the benefit you have there is you're not trying to sell them anymore. You're trying to consult. And consultative selling is the best selling. It means you're a good person and you're just giving them all the information they need to make a decision. And that's super tangential. I'm so sorry. But did I answer, Camille and Susanna? You both kind of chimed in on this one. Did I answer your questions here and any follow up questions about that topic? Because this is one of my favorite ones. We're creating a script, by the way, a lead intake script specifically for Montessori schools. And there's going to be a few different scripts. There's a lead intake script for tuition requests. And then we're also creating a standard operating procedure for tour requests. We want to create a tour template that, kind of allows you some assets that you can follow and then nurture your potential prospects. And so those will be coming out soon. Susanna says, love the idea of by week. I still gut clench when I give tuition info, and I know it's worth it. Yeah, it's so hard. It's just tough. Anytime you're talking pricing, because it's, in for especially for schools that are in competing with public schools. If you're around a public Montessori, it's tough to compete with free, and um, establishing value up front is difficult. And so I think the weekly tuition at least keeps the conversation open and going. And then the other thing that I'd encourage you to do is have some content that you can send them immediately. Case study content, I think, is really ideal. And this comes directly from Matt Hillis. This is something they do at Bergamo. He has a lot of case study content on hand. And so he'll take some of his most successful students, and I don't mean successful like they went off and launched Google. I just mean, people that had really good experience, especially families with multiple kids, children with siblings. And he'll ask them things like, why did you choose Montessori in the very beginning? What led you to us? What pain points did we help resolve? What are the things you think you learned here that you wouldn't have learned somewhere else? How did your child respond? What are some of the things that you've seen moving forward? What did they take with them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And when you build that case study content, and you want a few of them, start off with 2 or 3 because they're hard to build. But when you build the case study content, I think one of the things that is a perfect follow up to the price discussion is the case study discussion, because it's a really easy case to make for a parent. Hey, this isn't just worth it. I actually think it's critical and it's essential, because we do things that other schools don't do. We do things that other Montessori schools don't do potentially. So I think case study content is a really good kind of add on to the price discussion. It really helps, articulate the value, but articulate the value through the paradigm of somebody that they can really empathize with. I don't know if that's helpful or not. Does anybody have any case study content? And have you had any experience with it? Any successes so far? If not, I think you know what we should do. I'm going to make a note for this too. We'll create a case study template. I think that'd be a good piece of assets. I'm going to make a note to do that right now. That's another thing. If you need, oh, Susanna said that was supposed to be crickets. I know. If you need anything, we want to know. So if you think to yourself, hey, I would love a video on Montessori math. And I bring that up because one of our members asked for a blog on Montessori math, and we made it, and it was awesome. And it was better than anything we would have come up with. So if you want an infographic, a blog, a video, treat us like your order takers. We are now your marketing team. So if there's something you want, the big caveat to this is you have to be comfortable with us sharing it with the community, because we will. If you ask for, the blog on Montessori math got shared with the entire Montessori community. But I think that's just a benefit to everybody. So if you think of something you want or need, tell us. We'll make it if we can. If it's inside of our proficiency capabilities. And that says, have not thought about case study content as follow-up. Good idea. Awesome. Yeah. And I'm actually thinking about creating a case study template. So thank you for saying that. If I can create a template that's like a PowerPoint that you can export into a PDF that you can send as a little packet, I think that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, anything that you need, Nido Marketing wants to know. We want to become the definitive guides for Montessori marketing. This sounds so arrogant, and maybe it is. There might be just a little bit of conceit attached to my next statement, but I really want us to be part of the reason that Montessori grows. And I know we're not a fraction, right? A fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percentage, but I'd love for, I would just love to have the opportunity to be involved in the expansion of that message, because I really think, and not to pander, and that's what this is going to sound like. What you guys do it's just so important, I struggle to think of anything more important than, educating our children. And so, we want to help, but in order to help, we sort of need to be led in a lot of ways. I can teach you digital marketing, but that's just just the tip of the iceberg. Really, what I need to know is what you're struggling with and where your problems are, because I think that, if we put our heads together, we can fill in a lot of gaps. So anyway, that got real soapboxy real quick. So sorry if I made it awkward. Probably more crickets there, Susanna. But yeah, anything you need, let us know, because we wanna be there for you guys. I've got another 15 minutes. If we have any other questions, I can also, I think I can pass off presenter rights to somebody. So if you wanted to talk or have a conversation or show your screen, um, I can do that inside of Easy Webinar too. If you're on Facebook, I don't think I can do that for you. And I can field just about any question from a marketing perspective. I don't know any jokes. Sadly, I should probably learn some. We could also go over your site too if you wanted to do kind of a hot seat situation. That's something I've always been really interested in. Kind of poking holes and maybe fixing stuff on the fly while we're up here. And if there are no questions, that's no big deal. I'll hold the line for the next couple of minutes just to make sure. For whatever reason, we always get our best questions right at the very end. They always get snuck in there, like, at the buzzer in the fourth quarter, um, which is pretty funny. Susanna says, thank you. Thank you, Susanna. Really appreciate you guys showing up every week. I'm sure after a while, it's probably annoying to hear me talk. Oh, but just to remind you, you won't be hearing me talk for too long. Next Friday will be our last office hours. It's on a Friday. And then the following week, we're shifting to Thursday. So please keep in mind that office hours is now shifting to Thursday. And if you just joined us, we're doing that because Matt Hillis of Bergamo Schools, who I think is probably one of the greatest marketers I know, he owns a Montessori school in Sacramento, California. He grew it to 500 students in 4 locations. Really, really, really brilliant human. He's also the founder of Nido Marketing. Matt is going to be taking over the first half of office hours, and he's going to be interviewing Montessori thought leaders. And so we've got 3 people already lined up. And I'm really excited about all 3 of them. They're all awesome, and we'll be promoting that. You'll be seeing that in an email. So next Friday is the last office hours that will take place on a Friday, and then following that, it will all be Thursday. I think at roughly the same time. And I'm hopeful that works for everybody. If it doesn't, we always package these up. We package up the recordings and we post them to the forums so you can view them later. And we might even be stripping the audio from the interview and turning that into a podcast, which I'm really excited about too. So if you have anybody that you think would be a good interviewee, then please send them our way. We're looking to kind of grow that list. We want to do one a week, which is really aggressive. But otherwise, we're kind of off to the races. As always, everyone, truly grateful to you for your trust. I know these are tough waters to navigate, and so I appreciate you trusting us with everything. If there's ever anything we can do, please let us know. Other than that, I think we're good to go. Thank you so much, everyone, and talk to you soon.